Welcome to episode number 169 of the Beyond Social Media Show, the podcast for marketing, advertising, public relations, and communications professionals. We're recording live on YouTube on January 5, 2017. Happy New Year. Let's hope this year is better than the last. We have a lot of, since we've been out for 2 weeks, well, 2 episodes, we've got a lot to talk about, more than usual, but here we go. Stock watch for Trump tweets. SNL Dunks Donuts, the Citizen Reputation Score, the worst buns in the galaxy, pussy hats, Facebook's multi-streaming messenger, wheelchair maps, and virtual hangouts, and a lot more. BL, you always started off with the worst story of the week. What was the worst story of this very first week of this new year?
Well, unfortunately, this is in the worst because it's necessary. But there is an app called Trigger that will send you messages when President-elect Trump tweets about stocks that you own and lets you decide in real time what you should do about it, because when he tweets, he moves markets. And so if you hold stock in one of the companies that has come into his crosshairs, this app thinks that you'll want to know about it. It's a free app for iPhone. And it lets you set up financial triggers, and they created the Trump trigger just yesterday. And so you can set a reminder to sell a stock when its price reaches a certain level, moves a certain percentage, hits a high or a low. But in this particular case, it's when Trump tweets. And so if it's, a trigger that works, because you own Toyota today and you might have wanted to dump a little stock, or maybe you wanted to jump in and since this is going to pass with the next tweet tomorrow morning in the news cycle, then you might want to jump in and buy some more stock, It's no surprise that Trump's been tweeting since the election, and nobody anticipated that a single tweet could eradicate billions of dollars in market cap from large companies, but he can, and he's tweeted about companies from Apple to Amazon to AT&T, and that's just in the A's. And, so here we go, the first step towards price-based data. And it's a if this, then that technique in natural language processing. And so far, that's as far as they've taken it. But they want to help people make more rational decisions than perhaps the president-elect is making.
Wow, uncharted territory. You wonder whether the markets will start becoming acclimated to not reacting to his tweets.
I think that'll happen, David, if the media becomes acclimated to not reacting. If they wouldn't act like a bunch of excited school children every time he tweeted. I think if I were the New York Times or any other really major medium with whom he's doing battle, I would run his tweets on the homepage, and that's all I would do. So if you want to know what he said,
it's a good solution, actually. That's a very good solution. So here it is. We know he's talking. If you want to read it, go ahead and read it. But there you go.
But otherwise, don't bother.
Yeah. Well, speaking of disastrous tweets, it had to happen. A tweet to close out the last year, disastrous tweet. This one courtesy of Cinnabon, of course. This is from a Daily Dot story by John Michael Bond. Cinnabon tweeted in the wake of Carrie Fisher's untimely death a tribute tweet that included a sexual innuendo. The tweet read, "R.I.P. Carrie Fisher, you'll always have the best buns in the galaxy." And it included a artist's rendition of the profile of Carrie Fisher as Princess Leia with a Cinnabon as the bun for her hair. And this was a artist rendition in cinnamon. The tweet included, included obviously the iconic bun hairdo for Fisher, and in place of the Cinnabon. Clearly, a lot of thought went into planning this. They had an artist do the profile in cinnamon, but apparently not a lot of thought went into the planning of the accompanying text. They might have gotten away with it if it was just the image and not the text, but they couldn't resist the sexual innuendo. Obviously, there was a predictable backlash that ensued. Cinnabon issued an apology that said, "Our deleted tweet was genuinely meant as a tribute, but we shouldn't have posted it. We are truly sorry." Okay, fine. Damage done.
Did they say after that, blah, blah, blah?
Blah, blah, blah. Yeah, so kind of weird there.
Oh my God. You know, there's just no excuse for brands being quite that stupid.
Yeah.
But it's never going to go away. It just isn't. So this brings up an issue that we've discussed before, which is the lingering problem on Facebook with piracy and the thing called freebooting. And so what happened was that Saturday Night Live had a very funny Dunkin' Donuts spoof, and they posted it on YouTube, and they got, you know, a whole bunch of views, and then it was freebooted onto Facebook, where it racked up 2.4 million views in 2 days. And unfortunately, it didn't. None of that went to help Saturday Night Live's channel with advertising or to keep the people watching their other videos. And so unfortunately, that's what happens when Facebook allows people to do that. And I don't know how they solve that problem, but that problem needs to be solved.
Yeah, I know. I don't know how to solve it either. It's kind of...
Well, you know, maybe if it comes from YouTube and it's not you,
yeah,
should be able to do it. I don't know.
Right.
They've got artificial intelligence for everything else. Why can't they figure that one out?
Right. Smarter artificial intelligence might solve it. I have another tweet-related thing. This is not necessarily bad, but kind of weird. I came across, I had a tweet last week, a tweet I've tweeted before of a blog post, but at the top of the tweet, I noticed a little line in the upper right-hand corner as I was looking at that asked, with a hyperlink that asked, translate from French. And it was so I was curious, obviously. It wasn't in French. It was in English. So I clicked on it, and it had a message that said "could not translate tweet." Obviously, if you're trying to translate it from French and it's not in French, then you might have a problem with that. It asked me wrong translation with another hyperlink, and then had a notation that translation from French by Bing. Now, I haven't seen this anywhere else. It looks like an experiment that Twitter is doing, and it looks like a partnership they're doing with Bing to translate tweets, but they're mistranslating tweets.
Well, Bing does that, unfortunately, you know, and nobody's really gotten the translation thing down very well at all.
Google has.
Well, better than Bing, that's for sure.
Infinitely better.
Yeah, that's for sure, and infinitely better than it used to be. But that's really funny. But that's a good idea, because sometimes people follow me, you know, from China or wherever, and I often just block them because I don't know what they're saying. So it would be helpful to be able to do that.
Foreigners.
But speaking about Big Brother, China now has a great big use for big data. It's called Sesame Credit, and basically what it does is it gamifies citizen surveillance, and it gives people a score for how good a citizen they are. It's like a cyberpunk dystopia, and it gamifies your obedience to the state, and it's a social network. It measures how obediently you follow the party line. It pulls information because it's sponsored by Tencent and Alibaba, and it pulls information from your social networks and your online purchase histories. So even your friends' scores affect yours, because being friends with people who have a low score is going to drag down your score. So it's quite insidious, because it applies social pressure on people to ostracize their friends who have lower scores, either making those friends change their way or quarantining their ideas. And anybody can check anybody else's score, and when they do, they see a map of your contacts and their scores. So anybody can find out, first of all, who you hang out with, but secondly, like, whether they're good citizens. And so, you know, you could lose privileges that you've worked to obtain. So they track your utility bills, your criminal record, your online shopping habits, your public transportation use, and it's kind of like a credit score, but evil. And so if you post pictures of Tiananmen Square or share a link about a stock market collapse, your credit will go down. But if you share a link from the state-sponsored news agency about how well the Chinese economy is doing, then your score goes up. And your score can be from 350 to 950. And if your score is above 650, then you're excellent. And then you get extra services. Like if you might get a quicker loan if you were trying to get a loan, or you could get access to photographers and handymen and something they call running legs, which are people who run errands for you for a fee. And so if they think that you're making purchases that they think are valuable, like work shoes or agricultural products, your score goes up. But your score will go down for stuff like running a red light, or, this is a good one, failing to visit your parents often enough, determined by the government. And if you import something from Japan, for example, your score goes down. But most insidious of all is it makes it easier to get the paperwork you need to travel if you have a good score. And so there's going to be penalties. This is really horrifying, like slower internet speeds if you have a low score, or restricting your access to jobs. And, it could be a powerful tool for social conditioning. And on the other hand, it could fail because there are so many people. There's billions of people in China, and to get everybody involved with this is not. It's failed before. Let's put it that way. But it's going to become mandatory, according to several of the things that I read, in 2020 that you participate in it. So from a technological feasibility standpoint, according to Roger Creamers, who's a professor of law and governance at Leiden University, he says with that many people, it's a huge challenge, and it's also an open invitation to hackers. So we'll see, but that is really scary stuff.
I am so glad you brought that topic up.
Well, we're going to have it here, don't you?
Yeah. Well, I actually had that story in my notes several episodes ago, but I left it out because I thought, it's just too much to talk about because it's such a huge issue.
It's a huge issue.
But yeah, I mean, it's absolutely fascinating. It's horrifying in many ways. I think it's destined to fail simply because, as you said, there are a ton of people in China, and I just don't think that everybody's going to fall in line the way they expect. And there's going to be with all those different things that are involved, there's going to be a lot of unexpected things that happen. There's going to be a lot of unintended consequences that happen. But there's a TV episode about that, in part about that, from Black Mirror. Black Mirror has a social conditioning episode that is very, very much like that. But don't think that parts of that aren't already happening in the United States.
Of course they are. Of course they are. And wait until we all have to get a tattoo of Trump. Does this bring us to better news?
I hope it does. Yeah, I'm out of bad news. So.
Okay, well, my first good news one is a little scary also, but it's fascinating because it's a video produced by the Leicestershire Police Department, and it's a really chilling video about the dangers of online predators. This is from a Daily Mail story by Stephanie Linning, and what happened was there's a schoolgirl named Kayleigh Haywood, 15 years old, raped and murdered in November 2015. And she'd been approached by a stranger on Facebook, and then he asked for her number, and he started to send her hundreds of flattering and then increasingly suggestive text messages, urging her to keep them from her parents. He got her to lie to her parents and go to his house. He got her drunk and abused her, took her to a neighbor's house. The neighbor raped and murdered her and dumped her body in the woods. So the police produced a 5-minute video with the cooperation of her parents detailing how this all came about. It's been viewed more than 1 million times in 24 hours since it was put online yesterday. And it's really so frightening. And speaking at the launch of the film, her mother said, "We want her to help protect children today and in the future. And when the police asked us if they could make a film about Kayleigh, we didn't hesitate. We want every child age 11 and upwards to see this film, both in this country and abroad, because the film is our beautiful daughter's tragic legacy." And the Deputy Chief Constable, Roger Bannister, said, "I believe it has the potential to keep many tens of thousands of children safe from the threat of predators online." I'm not so sure it does, but you certainly aren't going to answer any weird emails the day you watch it.
God, that's so sad.
I know, it's just the saddest thing in the world. But I mean, I thought it was fascinating that the police department, who has many thousands of followers, because they routinely use video and Twitter and Facebook to try and catch criminals and to to get people to cooperate with them. I thought it was fascinating that they had done this. It's really well done. We'll put it in the show notes.
Yeah. On a lighter note, so
much lighter, I hope.
I can see that I can see the positive aspect of why you put that in best. Could equally have gone worse, but there's something good that came out of it. So yes, this is much lighter, but it does deal with our rather heavy subject of our cultural divide. This is a New York Times article by Josh Katz, and it's an excellent example of data journalism. Katz looked at how many active Facebook users in a given zip code liked certain TV shows. They found that 50 of the most liked shows clustered into 3 different groups within distinct geographic locations in the United States, or distributions in the United States, and together they kind of reveal a national cultural split among 3 regions: cities and their suburbs, rural areas. I don't think that would surprise anyone. But also what the New York Times calls the extended black belt, which is a swath that extends from the Mississippi River along the eastern seaboard up to Washington, but also includes city centers and other places with large non-white populations. The most common shows in urban areas are, among them, American Horror Story, Family Guy, Game of Thrones, It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia, Modern Family, Orange is the New Black, Saturday Night Live, South Park, and The Daily Show. Among the most common in rural areas: 16 and Pregnant, American Dad, America's Funniest Home Videos, Dancing with the Stars, Duck Dynasty, that shouldn't surprise anyone, Teen Mom, The Voice, and The Walking Dead. And the most common in the extended black belt are Empire, are among the most common. Or Empire, Keeping Up with the Kardashians, Law and Order SUV, Love and Hip Hop, Real Housewives of Atlanta, SpongeBob SquarePants, and the Tom and Jerry Show. I was a little surprised at The Walking Dead. I'm a big fan of The Walking Dead, but I certainly don't fall into the rural area, although maybe now that I've moved to Chaska, maybe I do. But
that must be it.
Yeah, I thought it absolutely fascinating. There's a tool at the end of the article. There's a little search tool that you can enter your zip code or city and find out what your community watches. So I'm going to use this. This is going to be my cheat sheet of psychographic research tool for Facebook advertising targeting.
That is such a good idea, Dave. Wow. So I have one that's much happier, much happier. And thanks to Microsoft. It's a time when we all need some beauty, and Microsoft came up with an ad that's really worth watching. It's called Harmony. And what they're saying in the video is, when the world seems divided, coming together can be a beautiful thing. And it includes Bobby White, who's a Florida police officer who played basketball with local kids rather than busting them after a complaint. Hawa Diallo, a West African refugee artist. Jazz Jennings, the youngest person to publicly identify herself as transgender and activist for transgender youth. Mona Haydar, a Muslim American activist who invites people to come and ask a Muslim over for coffee and donuts for free. And, we see each individual making a difference in their community, and then we watch them, of course, using Microsoft tools to create artistic renderings of hope and peace, and it has nice music, and then it made me feel better.
Good. We all need to feel better.
Yeah, I'm telling you.
This is something I'm not quite sure whether I feel better about it or not, but Facebook Messenger has gotten all blabby. You remember Blab, right, BL?
I saw
Blab?
what they did. Yeah, I'm not sure what I think about it either.
Blab was the hot for a couple of months multi-streaming video conferencing app that could have gone well, but they just didn't stick to it. But anyway, that's another story. Facebook has gotten kind of blabby. This is from a TechCrunch article by Josh Constein, and they're launching their own split screen group video chat feature. Facebook Messenger is 6 users can appear in split screen at a time and use Snapchat style selfie masks, while 50 total can listen and talk over voice while sending text, stickers, emojis, and GIFs. The purpose, obviously, is to get you to stay on Facebook longer. Not surprisingly. So if they're encouraging you to hang out with your friends on Messenger chats that is more than just a quick text message for planning where to go out, then you'll spend more time there, and Facebook can sell more ads. So this is what Facebook does. They incorporate other people's ideas. So Twitter live news feed, check. Snapchat stories, check. Google Hangouts / Blab group video, check. Done. So there you go.
Yeah, the problem is that neither Blab nor Facebook has figured out the video quality, and the people who use it haven't learned about lighting and sound. So if that ever happens, then, yeah, that would all be great. Speaking of new things, the New York Times and IBM are promoting a new movie that, every company is involved in virtual reality, but the Times and IBM are involved with an augmented reality app. This is from an Adweek story by Marty Swant. And, today at the Consumer Electronics Show in Las Vegas, which I wish I was at, the Times T-Brand Studio, they unveiled a branded AR app ahead of the release of Hidden Figures, the 20th Century Fox movie that comes into theaters on Friday. And the film tells the story of real-life mathematicians Katherine Johnson, Dorothy Vaughan, and Mary Jackson, 3 Black women who worked at NASA during the space race in the 60s, when racial segregation and open bias was just an everyday thing. So now you access this content. I don't quite understand this. You use the app at tourist destinations in 10 cities at science-focused places like NASA's Langley Research Center and Kennedy Space Center, and at some universities. And not quite sure why it's not in more places, but right before this, the New York Times acquired Fake Love, and actually last year. And so it remains to be seen what is going to come of this, but it's just really interesting to see that they're involved with augmented reality as well as virtual reality. Because I think augmented reality is a far more realistic Pokemon type thing that more people will be likely to be involved with in the short run. So it's probably a really smart move on their part, and a great partnership between the Times and IBM.
Yeah, well, there's been more examples of successful uses of augmented reality than there have to date of virtual reality. I mean, Google Translate, what was WordLens until Google bought it, is a perfect example of a great app that uses augmented reality. So very interesting. So I got to give a shout out to my friend Rick Birmingham who tipped me off to this story, but this is from a Christian Science Monitor article by Ben Rosen about Google incorporating wheelchair access information into Google Maps. So Google's launched a new feature through Google Maps and lists whether a location is wheelchair accessible. It's available only in the U.S. to start, but it features the feature relies on users, so it's crowdsourced. Users of Google Maps have to answer questions about the accessibility of the place they visit in order to get the information in there. Rosen reports that there are 2.2 1.2 million people in the U.S. who depend on a wheelchair, according to the Centers for Disease Control. And but the information could also assist users who rely on walkers, canes, or crutches, and that's another 6.5 million people in the U.S., as well as mothers with strollers, obviously. So accessibility is a big deal. He quotes Rio Akasaka, the project manager for accessibility feature, but it's often facilitated by whether or not there's a legal requirement or some sort of a requirement we need to adhere to. So Akasaka took it upon himself to start the project as part of his 20% quota at Google. He tested it with local guides, who are people that Google recruits to answer questions for local places in exchange for early access to new Google features. And they reported on wheelchair accessibility of the places they visited. After collecting a data over the past year, Google just launched the feature. So places wheelchair accessibility is displayed as an amenity in Google Maps. And given how prominently Google Places pages rank in search results, I would expect this to simply prompt more businesses to get wheelchair accessibility into their business in order to attract more business.
Well, it's a brilliant and hugely growing market. This
Sure.
is an aging population.
Right.
So this is really fun. The PussyHatProject is, on January 21st, about 200,000 women or more are expected to participate in the Women's March on Washington. And so in a show of solidarity for women's rights, many of them will be sporting pink knit Pussy Power hats. The PussyHatProject, like the Women's March, found its inspiration in the wake of you-know-who's victory. And it was organized by Krista Sue and Jana Zwieman. And what they did was they designed a very simple pattern for a cat-eared knit hat as a means for women to show their support of the protest, even if they can't make it to the march. And since the initiative was launched in November with the release of a downloadable knitting pattern and even a video teaching you how to knit, organizers estimate there's something like 100,000 of them have been knit. And they have, you can knit them, you can crochet them, and you can also sew them. And all of those patterns are on the PussyHatProject.com website.
Can you buy them?
No.
No, because I'm not going to make one. I would rather just buy one.
Well, maybe somebody will be selling them on Etsy. We'll have to take a look.
Yeah, I can just hire someone to knit one for me.
Now, there you go.
That's the only way it's going to happen. Very interesting. I love this story because I've been waiting forever for this to happen. When Facebook bought Occulus, my first reaction was, well, Facebook wants to turn your personal profile page into your virtual room where you can invite everybody to hang out with you as a virtual space. It appears that's what they're going to do. This is from a Mashable article by Carissa Bell. So Facebook is releasing 2 new updates for Gear VR Parties, which is a VR version of a phone call, and Oculus Rooms, which is a space you can virtually hang out with friends. Parties is Facebook's version of FaceTime for VR. It allows up to 3 people to connect and speak to each other while in virtual reality. Oculus Rooms is a virtual space that looks a lot like a living room where friends can play games, hang out, watch video, or otherwise just hang out with each other's avatars. Eventually, you'll be able to fully customize your avatar. But this is exciting for me because I'm like, yes, I was right.
So Facebook is going to turn into Second Life, right?
Hopefully a better version of that.
A better version of Second Life. I was always flying around in Second Life. I could never.
I know. Well, the problem with Second Life is you started off there naked, so I was like, that's weird. But
that's really fun.
Yeah. I'll next episode I'll have an update to the Second Life story that I left out of this episode, but we'll follow it up next.
Oh, is it back?
I'll follow it up next, so you'll have to listen next episode.
Dave, I'll be here. Okay.
That's for our listeners.
Oh, everyone else. Okay.
Yeah.
Go ahead. I'm done.
All right. This is quick and sweet, and This is from Carl Pearson Cater's Tumblr blog. Guy I know here in the Twin Cities came across it, and it's absolutely wonderful. It's Vincent Van Gogh LEGO-ized. So there is an artist, Joffrey Amelot, who has done a rendition of a Vincent Van Gogh self-portrait that looks like it was built in Legos, except it's a painting of we'll put it on the show notes. You can see it. It's awesome.
What fun. What fun.
Cool tools.
Cool tools. Okay, well, the Washington Post came up with the Trump Fact Checker Chrome extension, and what it does is it puts a little context into Trump's tweets, and its goal is to provide additional context and for his tweets moving forward, and a few of his golden oldies. What happened was I installed it, and then the other day it said on Chrome there's been an update, and now it can change your content on any website, and it was taking a bunch of privileges that I wasn't going to give it, so I uninstalled it. But what a good idea if they didn't have to get all piggy about it.
You and your privacy issues. So the Washington Post is applying their expertise to Trump tweets. There's a new platform, though, that you can apply your expertise to anything. It's called Jelly. It's called AskJelly. And it was just launched publicly. I believe we mentioned this in a previous episode of it upcoming. But this is Biz Stone's new venture. Biz Stone, of course, is the co-founder of Twitter and Medium. And it's kind of a cross between Twitter and Quora. So it's a new venue for expert positioning. Sign up, tag yourself with keywords for topics about which you're knowledgeable, and then it finds questions for you to answer, or you can search for them. Answers are rated by the crowd, so if you give a good answer, you're more likely to get higher visibility with the answers. So pretty cool, pretty easy to use, new. Who knows, whether it's going to take off or not, but I've been playing around with it.
Well, I saw that you were going to do it, so I signed up today. But what happened yesterday that was interesting was that it was announced that Medium is taking a new direction, and they laid off half their staff and closed a couple of their bigger offices. And the reason was, on the blog post, it said because they felt like people should get basically rewarded for their good content in a new way. So I guess this is it.
Yeah. I
don't know what we get for, as much as you get on Quora, I don't know what you get, but a lot of times it's just kind of fun to get involved with smart people and have conversations with them.
Right. Yep. Great conversation is its own reward, right? My last one is Sprouts, the YouTube channel Sprouts. This is I just stumbled across it, but it's a great little YouTube channel that has short educational videos about how to learn. So some examples include experiential learning, process learning, 7 tips to learn a new language, but they're all done in that sort of RS Animate style, which is a hand drawing animation, black animation on a whiteboard. And that type of animation in particular is conducive to learning because your eye and the narration are in sync. So you're not distracted from learning from anything else. You're actually following the thoughts as they're drawn. So check that out. We'll conclude a playlist in the show notes as well. And that brings us to projects. And BL, you have a very nice honor here. Tell us more about it.
Yeah, this really was nice. I all of a sudden realized where to go. That I'm on a list of 100 top social media marketing influencers of 2016. What was cool about it was the other people on the list, many of whom I know from the early days of blogging, like Toby Bloomberg and a bunch of other friends. And it's just nice to be recognized in that way. I've been on one list or another like that every year since 2010. So, to see I still got it, it's kind of nice.
Yes, very good. Excellent. That's always nice. So let's wrap this up. Daily numbers. This is our first episode of the new year. it follows. It's 4 days removed from January 1. 5 days removed from December 31st. And what do you do on December 31st if you party like it's the end of the year? And so what more appropriate than Americans' alcohol consumption preferences to wrap it up with the
Quite
daily
transition,
numbers, right?
Dave.
Yeah,
I'm impressed to tell with your transition tonight.
So this is from Gallup, and turns out that 35% of Americans are teetotalers, right? Total abstainers. But 65% of us, yes, we drink. And what do we drink? 43% of us drink beer. 32% of us drink wine, 20% drink liquor, and 5% just didn't have an opinion. What? You don't have an opinion about whether or not you drink or not?
They were drunk. I didn't know what teetotaler meant. That's what I am, I guess. I don't drink.
There you go.
I never knew what that
You're
word
in the
meant.
35% then, huh?
Yeah, I guess so. I'm amazed that it's that big because I don't actually
Yeah.
find that people get that much more interesting as they drink, you know? And usually it's most people.
Other people do. You don't know this. Other people do.
So that brings us to the end of episode 169 of the Beyond Social Media Show. And you'll find links to everything that we talked about tonight on beyondsocialmediashow.com/169 on our blog, beyondsocialmediashow.com blog, where we have every episode archived along with the show notes. And you will find David Erickson on Twitter. He is at D Erickson. He blogs at estrategyblog.com and creativepr.com/blog, both of which are must reads. I wouldn't miss an issue if you want to keep up with what's going on. And I am BL Ockman. On Twitter, I am at What's Next. I blog at whatsnextblog.com. I run a company called Maximum-Plus for social videos. And the show is BeyondSocialMediaShow.com. On Twitter, we're at BS Media Show. And we are on YouTube and we are on Facebook. We're basically everywhere that is possible for us to be. We are on iHeartRadio. We are on iTunes. We are, am I missing one? We are on Google Play.
Stitcher.
Where?
We're in Stitcher.
Stitcher. And so you can find the podcast on all of those. And we hope you will subscribe. And we'll be back next week, same time, same station. Thanks for watching.
Thanks for watching.